This may be the most serious video that I have ever made up to this point. Because what is happening in this country right now, and what may happen over the next few weeks, may in fact determine whether we survive as a constitutional republic, or whether Donald Trump will be successful in wiping away what remains of our Constitution and our democratic republic, and replacing it with some form of MAGA dictatorship. And now is the time to stop it. I'm talking here about what he's planning to do, according to recent reports, and from his own words, what he's planning to do in Chicago. Now, in this video, I'm going to explain to you what I think can and should be done. And if it is not, we really risk losing everything. This may be the turning point. Now, I have been explaining since the moment that this criminal piece of shit won re-election in November. And once we found out that Republicans had won control of both houses in Congress, I have been telling you that the only way to effectively fight back against and resist this Trump tyranny would be through the states, because Democrats have no power to stop this in Washington. We must look to the states, we must use the Constitution, and we must use our system of federalism, and the states must stand up and take back their power, because the states have a great deal of power. And I know many of these red states aren't going to resist anything. They will happily join this Trump dictatorship. They will happily enable it and help in any way that they can. But there are many states that can and must resist this, starting in Illinois, starting in Chicago. Governor J.B. Pritzker may not have ever expected that he would be in a position where he must stand up to preserve this entire country. And if he doesn't, that it will fall to dictatorship. But I think that that is the position that he is in, as well as the mayor of Chicago. Now, Trump is talking openly about sending the military into Chicago, ostensibly to address the crime problem. We all know that's bullshit. And it's also not a legal justification for using the military, as I'll get to in a minute. Now, I don't know if he intends to federalize the Illinois National Guard, whether he intends to use active duty military, or both. We'll have to wait and see if he actually goes through with this. But here's why now is the time to stand up. He has been building to this. And it's about, the reason why I say now is the time to stand up, it's, as I say, about picking your moment, picking your battle. This is the battle. He's been building up to this, starting in California, federalizing the National Guards. He even sent in Marines. He moved on to Washington, and now he's moving on to Chicago. Now, those first two situations were different in important legal and constitutional ways. Trump in California invoked the Insurrection Act to what he claimed the reason was to enforce federal law, because the federal law enforcement and the state law enforcement were insufficient to the task, so he had to call in the military. And the federal law was our immigration laws. That's what he said he was going in there for. It's all bullshit, but the courts bought it. And there is enough ambiguity in laws passed by Congress that allowed Trump to make that argument to justify his use of the military in California, and the courts bought it. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal rubber stamped Trump's use of the military in California. Different legal situation in Washington, but again, Trump had a great deal, even more power in Washington, because Washington, D.C. is a federal district. And a statute passed by Congress allowed Trump to federalize the Washington Police Department, and he had a lot of power to do what he did. So neither of those two situations, in my opinion, were the time to really make a stand. Chicago is completely different. This is a state. Whole new ball game. Because he is not, as he did in California, because yes, I know California is also a state, he is not talking about using the military to enforce immigration law. He's talking repeatedly about the crime in Chicago. And that is not a valid legal basis for using the military in Chicago. Now, the Insurrection Act, which is a horribly crafted and ill-conceived law that has been on the books for a very long time and should have been repealed long, long ago. But it allows the president to use the military in a couple of different situations in a state. Now remember, we have this Posse Comitatus Act, which prohibits the use of the military for domestic law enforcement. But the Insurrection Act has a couple of exemptions. Now, one is if the state requests assistance from the federal government, either through the governor or through the legislature, because they are unable to address some emergency type situation and they need federal involvement. That is not the case here. Governor Pritzker, the mayor of Chicago, have said we do not want Trump to use the military here. They are not needed. We are not requesting it. In fact, we adamantly oppose the use of any military here. So that condition doesn't exist. The second is that second and third, the president can use the military even over the objection of the state, either to put down an insurrection against the federal government, which is not happening, or two, to enforce federal law, because federal law enforcement is insufficient to the task. And I don't say state law enforcement because state law enforcement has no constitutional or legal obligation to help the federal government enforce federal law. That's what sanctuary cities are about, by the way. States and localities, state police, local police, state entities of any kind have no obligation whatsoever to assist the feds in enforcing federal law. So if federal law enforcement is insufficient to the task and the states won't do the federal government's bidding, then the president, in order to enforce federal law, if nothing else is working, he can call in the military to enforce federal law. That's what he did in California. And that's what the Ninth Circuit went along with. That is not the case in Chicago. Now, maybe he will make that case at some point. It'll all be bullshit. It'll be a lie. And all of his words up to this point bear that out, that it will be a lie, because what he's saying is that it's all about law enforcement. Oh, the Democrats are soft on crime. You can't walk down the streets in Chicago. The murder rate, theft, burglary, blah, blah, blah. All of these things. That's just those are state crimes. That's what those are. The federal government has zero authority. The president has zero authority to send the military in to enforce state law. The president has no authority to enforce state law, period. Okay? Whether he doesn't even have the authority to send federal law enforcement into a city to enforce state law. That's none of his damn business. That's the business of the state. So, and we know damn well that if Donald Trump is successful in doing this in a state, if he's successful in doing it in Chicago, either because the courts rubber stamp him doing this, or because the state and federal governments do not effectively resist him and just acquiesce to it, then he will do this. He will move on to other cities and other states. That's why now is the time to stop this. Or before long, you're going to see military on the streets of every major city in this country. Or at least every city with Democratic government, Democratic governor, Democratic mayor. So now is the time to stand up. So what exactly can they do? Well, first of all, we're going to find out soon enough, hopefully. Governor J.B. Pritzker is scheduled to hold a press conference today at 3 o'clock to address this situation. So I'll be listening very carefully to what he has to say. But what can they do? Well, he's doing the right things as of right now, making it clear, both he and the mayor of Chicago are making it very clear that there is no situation on the ground in Chicago to warrant federal involvement. And they are not asking for any federal involvement. In fact, they adamantly oppose any federal involvement. That is legally and constitutionally important for them to do, and they're doing it. The next thing I think they should do is to warn that they will physically resist the intrusion of any law enforcement, of any military into Illinois, into Chicago. And this is where it gets, this is where it gets serious. Now, if Donald Trump tries to federalize the National Guard, J.B. Pritzker should countermand that order. He should order the National Guard to disregard any order from the president, citing his lack of legal and constitutional authority, because he has none. He only has authority to invoke the National Guard for specific reasons. National emergencies, war, things like that. Not for law enforcement purposes, contrary to the law and the Constitution. And as I've explained, neither the Constitution nor any of our laws allow Donald Trump to use the military, either National Guard or active duty, to enforce state law. Period. The Insurrection Act does not give him legal authority. So if Trump seeks to federalize the National Guard, Governor Pritzker should tell them to disregard that order and stand down. Now, what will they do? Okay, this is uncharted territory. Pritzker should also order state police and local police to resist the military being sent to Chicago. They should obviously be running into court at the very same time. And the courts need to see that this isn't a fucking game. That you cannot just keep acquiescing to this orange dictator thinking, well, just give Trump what he wants, or he's going to start ignoring the courts. He'll be gone soon enough. We can weather this storm. No. These courts need to know that now is the time for them to stand up and to stop this man. And now is the time for us to make this stand, because the law and the Constitution is all on our side and there's no ambiguity at all. Dictators love legal ambiguity because it's arguable. Oh, well, I don't know. I see it this way. Fine. You see it that way. I see it this way. No. Donald Trump, it is clear. It is not arguable. He has no authority to use the Constitution or any statutes passed by Congress to use the military, either National Guard or active duty, to enforce state law in Chicago. He has no authority. So now is the time to stand up. I said, pick your moment, because of you maximize your strength, your legal position, now's the time. The law is clearly on the side of the state here. So now is the time. And the courts need to understand, if you do not side with the states here, you are risking civil war. That's what I think. Look, I know this may sound ridiculous to some of you. Oh, the states can't stand, state police can't fight off the military. No, the state police can't fight off the military. If Trump, wants to order the military to take out the state police, our military can take on the state police of Illinois. But then we're going to be putting a lot of people to the test. And you know what? When you elect a dictator who is hell-bent on being a dictator, this is the moment that you create. And the tens of millions of fucking morons in this country who voted for this dictator have created this moment. And this moment, and doing this, is necessary, or we're going to lose it all. Now, if Trump orders the military into Chicago against the will of the state and against the state police, this will all be illegal. It will all be unconstitutional. And the military does not take an oath to Donald Trump. All of them take an oath to the Constitution of the United States. And they are obligated, they are required to ignore illegal orders. So any damn one of them who goes into Chicago, who obeys Trump's illegal orders, will be criminals themselves. We need to push this matter. We need to put people to decisions. We need to create this make or break moment now, because it's only going to get harder the further on we go. If we let Donald Trump take over Chicago, it is going to be a hell of a lot harder to resist him elsewhere. Now is the time to take a stand. So yes, Donald Trump could give that order. The military would be breaking the law and violating their oaths if they follow it. And if they do follow it, then we are looking at a standoff between the United States military, being controlled by a criminal dictator, and state law enforcement from the state of Illinois. And maybe now would be the time for other state governors to send their law enforcement to help, their National Guard to help. I'm not sure of the legality of all of that. I'm just saying that should be looked at. And look, as I said, this is uncharted territory. I don't have all the answers. I'm giving you my best read on the situation and my best suggestion. We've never faced a situation like this before. Now, going back to what I think should be done there. We need this situation. If Trump doesn't stand down, if he's going to go through with this, then that's the scenario we need to create. We need to meet force with force. And then, what does the military do? Are they going to continue following his illegal orders? Are they going to open fire on the state police of Illinois? So, these are the preparations that I believe the governor should be taking to repel this by force if necessary and to go to the courts. As I said, the law is completely on our side. So it is important to go to the courts. Maybe they should even attempt to go to the courts now before Trump gives any order. Maybe the courts will not weigh in and say, oh, this is all speculative. We're not gonna take up this case until he actually does something. But the second Trump gives any kind of order, they better be in court on an emergency basis. We need court orders in our favor, which only, bolster the position of the states. And maybe the Supreme Court says, you know what? No, we're gonna just give in to dictatorship. We need to know that too. We need to know where we stand. We need to know where everyone stands. We need to know what we're up against. We need to know where this is going. We need to put this all to the test now. It's only going to get worse over time, and our position is only going to weaken over time. Now's the time. Now's the time. And the best way to prevent Trump from even trying this is to be forceful up front by saying, no, this will not stand. We will not tolerate it. This is illegal. And we won't just run to court. If Trump tries to federalize our National Guard for an illegal purpose, I, as governor of the state of Illinois, will countermand his order. And you make it clear to every member of the National Guard, if you follow Trump's illegal order, you will be prosecuted. People need to know what the fucking law is. And this is our line in the sand. This is it, guys. And if we don't, and let me just finish that thought out. Standing up now, Trump is all about sending messages. He's always sending messages to intimidate people. It's time to start sending a message back to this piece of shit. No, you got away with it in California. You got away with it in Washington, D.C. You will not get away with it anywhere else. We are going to stand up and resist, not just legally. We're not just going to go whining to the courts. We're going to stand up to you physically. We will use force if necessary. And then let the American people see the dictator they elected. Is Donald Trump going to order the military to open fire, use force against state police? Will the military obey that order? Let the American people see those images. Let the American people wake up from their fucking slumber and see what the hell they created by voting for this guy. This is coming to a head one way or another, or maybe it's not. This is either let me give you 3 different scenarios. Either Trump just abandons his plans for dictatorship and just, you know what, I'm not going to try to be a dictator for life. I'm not going to try to destroy the Constitution. I changed my mind. Either that, which is not going to happen, or we all just give up. We all acquiesce to it. We say, okay, we had a nice run. We'll just let Donald Trump turn this, destroy the Constitution and turn this into a Trump dictatorship, and then he could pass it on to his children or whoever his handpicked chosen successor is, and it's all over. We just accept it. Or this is going to have to come to a head. Those are your 3 choices. I choose forcing this to come to a head. I didn't want it to come to this, but those are our choices as I see it. So either we stand up now, or we stand up later, or we don't stand up ever. Those are your choices. Never standing up, I don't like that one. I'm not going for that. So it's either stand up now or stand up later. It's only going to be harder if we try to do it later. The predicate will already be set for the next time. Or the precedent. I meant to say precedent, but predicate works. The precedent will have been set if we let him get away with it in Chicago. We need to stop him here. The law is on our side. The Constitution is on our side. Completely. Unambiguously. Now's the time. And Governor Pritzker, I hope he is up to the moment. We'll see at 3 o'clock. And if he is, Governor Pritzker shouldn't be standing up alone. It shouldn't be just Pritzker and the mayor of Chicago standing up alone. It should be governors and mayors across the country standing in solidarity with them and making it clear to this authoritarian criminal piece of shit, you're not trying it here either. We've all got each other's backs. We're resisting this tyranny. It stops now. No Trump dictatorship in this country. Anyway, this is way longer than I had intended. Thank you for watching to the end. I'll be talking about this more soon.